Welcome to the Language of Excellence podcast. I'm your host, Nick Nighbor. I want to welcome you to the show. Some of you are live on YouTube right now, and some of you are listening to this podcast on all the several podcast stations that are out there. I want to welcome you to the show. If this is the first time that you've been on this podcast, this is the Language of Excellence podcast. And what is that? This is a podcast designed to help business owners, entrepreneurs, and salespeople live the language of excellence, which is consuming the right information, taking action on that information to produce the outcomes that they want. So very, very excited to bring on the guest here today. This is someone I've known this gentleman for 7 years, and it's just been a great journey getting to know him a handful of years ago, and all the things that he's taught me in the past, learning from him really on a weekly basis. It's just been a really, really good experience. So this gentleman, his name is Tony Jalan. And what are we going to learn about here today? We're going to learn about mindset in sales. We're going to learn about regaining focus in sales. We're going to learn about how to schedule and prioritize your intentions in sales. This is what we're going to learn about here in this episode here today. Tony Jalan is an award-winning executive sales leader. He's a coach. He's a speaker. And what he does is he helps professionals get better in the different areas that they are serving, whether that's in sales, whether that's coaching individuals. And when I say professionals, I mean, this is anyone that wants to learn and grow and get better. This is what Tony does. He's one of the most passionate people that I know. And there's 3 things that I really, really respect about Tony. The first thing is he's very, very introspective. If he's not talking, he's thinking, which is really, it's a great skill to develop. This is something that I think of Tony. He's always thinking about something. The second thing is he allows people to talk. That's a pretty rare skill today. And the third thing that I really respect about Tony is he's got a massive vision, and that involves serving others. Let's get Tony on the show. Welcome, Tony.
Well, thank you for having me, Nicholas. I tell you what, I am incredibly grateful and excited to be with you today and everyone who's listening and watching.
Awesome. Well, I always like to start out, you've been in sales for a number of years, and whether sales chose you or you chose sales, let's start there. Let's talk about your beginning days in sales.
So I think the beginning days in sales just came from learning from my father. And it wasn't that my father was, quote unquote, a salesperson, right? But he was a person that, you know what, he realized in order to get jobs, he had to knock on doors. And those jobs he would get would be mowing someone's lawn, raking leaves, or field work, and we call back in North Dakota hoeing sugar beets. So imagine working in 100-degree temperatures in the summers in the fields weeding crops, and he would go ahead and knock on doors to get the jobs. So I think that was my first exposure to sales.
Did he tell you about this, or did you experience this?
Pardon?
Did he tell you about this, or did you experience this?
Oh, I experienced it. I experienced him having the conversations and say, hey, I got a crew. I know you got these fields out here. I heard that you're the person I got to talk to. And they'd negotiate back and forth on how much dollars that they were going to pay us per acre. He always did that versus doing the hourly wage.
Okay. That's really interesting that you got to experience a negotiation. So how old were you when you were being introduced to business?
7, 8 years old.
Wow. 2nd or 3rd grade, and you're already getting a business education.
Which I didn't know at the time, right? All I knew is like that's what my dad just did. And looking back now, I realize, well, that was my introduction to sales. Like, if you want something, you got to go get it.
Correct. And in your LinkedIn profile, you mentioned that about work ethic and what you learned from your dad. So let's talk a little bit about that, because anyone can have an example of someone with work ethic. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to display that. So how did you put those two and two together to like where you are today with work ethic?
Well, I like to say, and I heard this phrase years ago. I have a PhD. I was poor, hungry, and driven,
That's pretty good.
and it was just, I did manual labor, right? And
Mhm.
my first sales job, I'll never forget. I was working in McDonald's, and also was working overnight at a gas station. So I was doing two jobs.
Okay.
And there was this job ad that said manager trainee in the newspaper. I'm like, that could be me. See, I could do that. I could do that. And I went there, beautiful office and everything like that. And they said, you got the job. It was on the spot. Training's on Friday. And I'm like, all right, showed up all shirt and tie. And I remember walking into this room. There was about six of us. And there was this machine that was there that looked like a vacuum.
Okay.
And I just accepted the job to sell Kirby home cleaning systems. Don't call them a vacuum because they're better than a vacuum. And I'm like, wow, like, okay, you know, let's do it. Let's do it. And we had our rally weekend in which you had to go set some appointments. And myself and one other guy made it through the first weekend. Everyone else quit. And I remember I finally met the owner of the company. His name was Tony as well. He goes, so what's your goal? I'm like, to be the number one sales guy here. Shoot for the moon, right? He goes, oh, that means you got to beat me. I go, no problem. Yeah, and it was work, appointments were getting set up first initially, but they didn't always pan out. So you had to
Mhm.
do door knocks. I had to go knock on people's doors. And it's like I didn't get caught up in the work. I just got caught up in the end result. And that was, I just got a car. I had to pay for the car.
Selling vacuum cleaners door to door, knocking on doors.
Yeah. But
So
then, go
go
ahead.
ahead. So what would you say is, I mean, that's quite an introduction.
Hmm.
And then you're seeing already burnout within the first week in
Sure.
sales. You're already seeing people that can't make it. Like, what was your biggest learning lesson like that first 6 months?
Um, so they gave me some audio tapes. Ernie Villanueva, I'll never forget it. They gave me some audio tapes. They go, you know what? Make your car a university on wheels. You gotta learn and grow. Like, don't be listening to radio. You gotta put positive in. I'm like, okay. And I just listened. They said you gotta pull up 100 dirt pads from every demo that you do. The more dirt you can bring, the more value you put in. You build for the machine.
Okay.
And so that's what I did. Like, and when I got my first deal, I was so stinking fired up. The guy went in the back room, grabbed cash. I'm like, yes, let's go. And I watched other people do it too. I just copied. I literally just copied what other people did.
So
Eh,
so you got introduced to sales and now you're getting introduced to really the language of excellence. You're listening to the right information
Yeah,
and you're applying, you're putting the two together.
yeah,
And you've not stopped with the listening and learning.
no,
That's something that you still do to this day.
yeah, absolutely.
Still learning, still growing. So whether there's a brand new salesperson or a veteran salesperson, tell us like what is the importance of learning on a continuous basis?
I think there's a lot of benefits to learning on a continuous basis. Number one, it brings awareness, right? You don't know
Mhm.
what you don't know. And how can you grow if you're not aware of where you're at and assessing where you're at? And I think too, reading gave me confidence because there was things that I would read, like one of my favorite books of all time, besides the good book, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read that when I was 18 years of age.
Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, and I would read that every year because it just made me aware of how to have good relations with people. So I think number one, it brings you awareness, and two, it opens your eyes to new other opportunities. There's things that I would do, still do to this day. I'm like, huh, like It's one thing to know something, it's another thing to do what you know.
And that's a process for someone that is just learning to get into reading or listening. It might sound like a chore. It might sound painful right away. But once you start to engage in that process and start to see the transformation that it can make within yourself,
Mhm.
it's priceless.
Right.
The
And
principles taught in that book, smile, what?
mhm.
Remember someone's name, like very, very simple principles, but a yearly reminder. Yeah, I should probably, Nick, you need to smile a little bit more.
Mhm. Because it's easy to get caught in the everyday routine.
Mhm.
There's so many things that are demanding our attention today. And you got social media, you got work, you got all these things that, you know what? Like growth is an inside outside job. And you talk to some people who are big leaders, they may not be the biggest readers, but they do journaling, they do reflection and inspection. So again, it's getting aware. And for me to think about like in this book, like I got a few books here. I got one, Coaching for Performance, here. I was given this as a gift from um, a leadership development person named Scott. I've got, Life Force here by Tony Robbins here. I've got 75. I mean, I got books surrounding me, right? I keep them in front of me because it makes me read.
Mhm.
And it's like one of my mentors once said to me, Tony, your income will never outpace your personal growth and the amount of people that you help.
Your income will never exceed your personal growth
And the income and the people that you help.
and the people that you help. That's powerful.
Mhm.
This is really good stuff, Tony. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about mindset. I know you talk quite a bit about mindset. You got a huge team of people that you're helping. There's really two pieces that I see. Number one, it's your own personal mindset. And then two, helping others affect their mindset. So it's sort of like a two-part question. What have you done in the past to help work on your mindset? And then how have you taught that to others?
Yeah. I think in terms of working mindset is because I've made a lot of mistakes, right? They say struggle brings growth and pain brings change. And I've had both of them. And I realize when I've made mistakes, when I've experienced pain, is because my mindset wasn't right. You know, you talk about nutrition, but there's also such a thing as mental nutrition. I'll give you an example. There was a speaker that's a very hardcore speaker, motivating speaker, comes to the front door, kicks down the front door, um, very intense. And there was a talk of his that I was listening to for 3 days straight. And my wife goes to me, she goes, "Are you okay?" Like, well, yeah, sure. What do you mean? She goes, "You've been kind of a jerk the last couple days."
Wow.
I'm like, I appreciate the feedback, right? Like, really? She goes, "Yeah, you just been like this really intense." And then I'm like, well, why have I been that way? Because I'm listening to something quote unquote positive, right?
Hmm.
And even too much of a good thing can also not be a good thing. And so, you said a point moments ago, you work on yourself in order to help others. And I think the difference between a leader and a manager is that the leader understands it's an inside out job to lead others. And a manager, it makes it an outside inside job. Like they're willing to manage everybody, but not willing to do the work themselves. At least for me, I want to lead by the example. I don't want to talk about it, I want to do it.
So there's the learning piece and then there's the production piece.
Mhm.
So it's good to produce. It's wonderful produce. That's where the income comes from. But the learning is in direct, it's completely relative to the production is the learning piece.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to. A lot of people want to master the scoreboard versus mastering the mundane.
Hmm.
You know, I wanted to be good at selling Kirby vacuums. I listened to every audio, and the more I listened to it and then I applied it, the more confident I became. You know, I wanted to be a great salesperson because I sucked. I mean, I just out hustled people. That's all I did in the beginning. Like, that's all I did. I just outworked people. I wasn't great. I did when I got a car crash and wasn't able to sell Kirby's anymore. I went to an inside sales, selling long distance services. And I followed the script because I understand the power of following a system. You should have follow a system. And I sucked in terms of the scoreboard. You know, I went to the library, read books on how to get better at it because that's what I feel like. If you want to get good at something, you got to study it. And eventually I got good at it. And did a lot of cool things, led a team of over 100 people as a 20-year-old. So I think, but it's also, though, it's easy to, like working out, for your muscle to get weak if you're not working it. And that's the mental muscle. You got to build the mental hustle.
It's a life skill. If you're not exercising it, whether that's relationships or fitness, nutrition, mindset, sales,
Mm-hmm.
it's a muscle. Courage is a muscle if it's not exercised.
Right. And it's something I got to work on all the time, you know, because it's easy for me to go backwards. Like what got me here won't get me there.
Right. You were talking about all these different distractions that people have, social media, all the external noise. How is it for you? How do you regain focus? How do you set intentionality on a daily basis?
That's a great question because I'm not perfect at it. I'll be the first one to admit I do falter because sometimes other things come up that take up my brain space. I think first off, you got to understand the big picture. So here is my vision book right here. It has my vision board for the year, things that I want to achieve just this year. I have this on my bathroom mirror. I also have it on my phone. Um, you got to understand what your big picture is first. You like, what is your why?
Vision.
What drives you? Like, and not so much what do you want to do with your life, but how do you want to live your life? Um, because the clearer you get on this, the better decisions that you'll make. So I think first step is you got to get the big picture down. The second thing you got to assess where you're currently at. You know, where are you currently at with things? And then next thing what I do, and that assessment is on a daily basis. Like I think if you do it on a daily basis, it's better than doing it on a monthly basis. You know, some people don't do it. They only do it once a year when they want to do a New Year's resolution. So and then I think the next thing you got to figure out to like eliminate the things that are distracting you. Like, is it serving you or not? Is it helping you get closer to your goal or further away from your goal? You know, and I think like too, like some distractions, like they're gonna happen no matter what, like email, text messages, social media. That's when you just gotta schedule that stuff. You know it's something that you do, right? But I don't know about you, but I've gotten caught up in the social media, you know, vortex. And all of a sudden, it's like an hour and a half goes by and goes, oh my gosh, I just spent an hour and a half on it. You know,
The scroll hole.
yeah. Um, it is so much happened to me, right? Because there's some things you're not going to eliminate. You're not going to eliminate your family, I don't think. Um,
That shouldn't be on the list. No.
right. But you know what? You got to schedule it though. Like you look at my calendar, I have family time scheduled in my phone. If it doesn't get scheduled, it doesn't get done.
Schedule your family time.
Absolutely.
It's a great question to ask the audience. What are you doing right now, currently, to spend intentional time with those closest to you?
I think the key word, what you said there, Nick, is intentional time. Like you can spend time in the same room. It doesn't mean you're there,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I've been guilty of that, where I'm in the same place with my family, but I'm on my phone the whole time. I'm reading my emails. Like, how many times do I need to check the same doggone email? I'm guilty of it. If I don't schedule my email time in terms of regaining focus, I will look at my email multiple times in a day. The average person, what they say, touches their phone 400 times a day. 400 times.
That's a lot of distractions.
And think about how often we touch our phone when no action is taken. So that's why my email is way too far. Like when it comes to focus, my phone is on silent. Like I'm not talking vibrate, I'm talking silent. The only notifications I have that comes up is my calendar. That's it. And it was tough to do that in the beginning.
Correct, because you're relying on you do something long enough and it just becomes just the norm.
You don't realize how much you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize that, oh my gosh, I've been checking my phone all day long. No wonder I didn't get anything done.
And there are specific phones out there that allow you to see how many times you picked up your phone.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You can
My
see
iPhone does it. It's screen time. Yeah,
you can
focus time.
see you can see where you're spending your time, like doing a calendar audit on your phone. Get the Kleenex out, guys. You're going to be shocked if you haven't looked at that recently.
Just last week, I was sitting down with someone, and he was asking how he can become more productive and like regain focus. Like, are you serious? You really want to do that? He goes, oh yeah, I want to get this dialed in. I'm like, okay. Are you 100% sure? Tony, give me your phone. I go, because he said he wanted to get his reading up, but his reading wasn't at where it needed to be. I go, I'm gonna find you 30 minutes of reading time right away. He's like, okay. And his social media was close to 3 hours a day of social media. He goes, no way. I go, this is your phone unless you edited it right before I opened it up. It's your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So we put a passcode on it that yes, she has a time limit. And I know the passcode, which I actually now forgot. But if he wants to get into his Facebook or like that, he's got to text me to get it done. And he's like, Tony, I didn't realize how much I've been using my phone because when you're distracted and have a lack of focus is because you have lack of clarity.
When you're distracted, you have a lack of focus, and it's because you have a lack of clarity, which goes back to number one, have that big picture, have that vision. 12 months from now, this is what my life looks like. This is how I'm living. Doing an assessment, which we're talking about,
Yep.
removing those things removing the hurdles that are holding you back from success. A lot of it's scheduling is so powerful. It's so powerful. So we've talked about mindset. We've talked about scheduling your priorities. You have a motto, Tony. That motto is attitude, activity, and accountability. Tell us about that.
I think those relates to controlling the controllables.
Okay.
Right. You may not be able to control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it. It comes down to a simple equation. The event plus your reaction equals your outcome. And when I say attitude, I'm not saying pie in the sky, everything's hunky dory or anything like that. I'm saying, you know what? When crap happens, I'm choosing to know that I'm going to get through this. I'm just making a decision to get through this. I don't have to do things, I get to do things. That's like an attitude of gratitude almost. I'm big on gratitude. Gratitude's been a life changer for me. Um, Activity like no one's gonna always do it for you. You know, there's a podcast we listened to a while ago. It's called Sometimes you just got to show up. You got to do the activity,
Mm-hmm.
but that what activity to do based on your vision, your goals that you want to achieve, and accountability. That's a big thing, and I know you do it with your mastermind groups in terms of there's an accountability piece on there, and we've been in some together. Um, People say, "Well, I don't need no one to hold me accountable." Anyone who says that, I know they need someone to hold them accountable. Like 9.9 out of 10 people. Liar, liar, pants on fire, because I used to say that. I don't need no one to go ahead and hold me accountable. I can do it on my own. And for me, at least, I believe accountability is like the glue.
Okay.
It keeps it all together. Like when I tell my family that I'm going to get something done, they remind me that I need to get it done. Or they'll ask me, like one year, I wrote an article every year for a week on LinkedIn. And I remember times when my family would come to my office at home and say, "Did you write that article yet?" "No, I haven't. Get out of here." Because I explained to them why it was important to me. And that's why going back to understanding your big picture and why it is, and sharing with those people closest to you, like, listen, can you check in on with me on this? Because sometimes we're more accountable to other people than we are ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And accountability keeps you between the lines, right? This is the reason why I have an executive coach that I hire outside of my corporate world to coach me, to share my goals. This is why I'm part of a mastermind group. It's not that I'm always learning something new. Is that I need someone sometimes to remind me why I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And that might sound completely backwards. I forget. Like this holds me accountable, having my booklet in front of me, having this in my bathroom mirror. But you know what? I've got 9 things on here. The vacation, anniversary trip, income goals, speaking goals, like they're all there because I keep it in front of me. That's holding yourself accountable by keeping it in front of you. Out of sight, out of mind, they say. So,
Make the things that you want in your life convenient in your life,
mhm,
and the things that you want to remove from your life, also known as bad habits, make them a little more inconvenient, and you'll do them less.
yeah. Why do I have books all around my desk? Because it keeps it in front of me. Because I want to grow. I have a mission. I want to, make an impact and inspire others and help them remove the roadblocks that they have in their life. Well, how do I do that? Is understand the things that are keeping me back and being vulnerable. And there's a difference between a person who's strong versus a person of strength. And there's the thing we hear about givers versus takers. And I like to give, and I realize because I like to give, I also have a challenge with asking for help.
Really,
hmm hmm
you have a challenge for asking for help.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that. That was a trait of a giver. Because I like to do things. Like I want to make things happen. You know, they say if it's up to be, if it's up, if it is to be, it's up to me or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize, that's one of the things of regaining focus is delegating. Like you don't have to do it all your own. Like I went through a situation just recently at work in terms of recruiting. I was gonna be gone out of office one day. I had all these people who applied, and I was gonna be gone. But realizing that I was a giver, I don't. I got to learn I better ask for help. I asked for help, and it's amazing, mind blowing.
People love to help.
They do.
People love to help, but to ask for help, oh, That's another story.
But that's a sign of strength, though. Like, I
Yes.
think what happens is and when you start to achieve success in life, I think it's sometimes hard, at least it's been for me at times, to ask for help because I put the story in my head that whoever I'm going to ask for help assumes that I don't need the help, and I ask them something's wrong with me, which is a story that I made up.
Mhm.
And then I ask them for feedback. They go, really? Like, I coach youth sports, and I ask the players for insight, and they're blown away. I'm like, listen, I don't have all the answers because I don't. But also, perspective drives my actions. And someone else's perspective may, like and I've had conversations, you've said different things, and I'm like, I never thought about it from that perspective. And I wouldn't have thought about it if I didn't ask.
Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It can be a sign of strength.
Yeah. Like we're part of a mastermind group. We've been going on for 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
mean, we have a mission statement for that mastermind group every Thursday, 7 a.m. And we have structure,
Yes.
but yet at the same time, we still live that mission. And sometimes it's hard to say, hey, can you guys help me on this? Or give me your guys' perspective on this.
Just happened today.
It just happened today. So, yeah, I think they say, actually, I don't think they've done studies on people who've achieved a lot of success. It's it was because they're the most disciplined. It's because of speed to implementation. In order to implement a lot of things, you need to delegate.
Which is a skill worth developing.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Awesome. One last question here for you, Tony, before we wrap up. You talked a little bit about masterminds.
Mhm.
What would you say is the impact or the importance, just your thoughts on being part of a mastermind? What's that done for you and what can you share?
Yeah, my first mastermind that I was ever a part of that was like collaboration and where there was some accountability side of it was when I was 20 years old. That was a handful of years ago,
Just a couple.
just a couple. It was just so empowering because it pushed me to be better. And then I was on another one. It took me years to be really into one. It was probably 2012. And I'm in this mastermind group with people who own like multi-million dollar businesses. Number one, um, dental practice in California for youth, right? We paid 8 grand, 7,000 or 8 grand for 7 weeks. And it was just so eye-opening. Like, I think and if you're a leader, sometimes the island can get lonely. And the
Mhm.
challenges that you go through, you may think you're the only one going through them. I mean, I learned a lot through listening in my masterminds, but also they push me. That accountability piece again, right?
Yes.
And I didn't want to be the guy who showed up and didn't get stuff done. And you would think it's like, wait a second, you should do that anyways. Yeah, I should do that anyways. Sometimes I don't.
We talked about that, didn't we? Attitude, activity, accountability. Well, I don't need an accountability partner. And I don't know what the statistics are, but there's people that have hired a coach or been part of a mastermind group. And then there's the population that never has been part of one. And anyone that's either hired a coach or been part of a mastermind knows how silly they might have sounded when they said, I don't need that. Because as soon as they experience it, that's when the truth comes out.
Well, it is too, is that, and I think too, is that if you're going to decide on a group, there's different types of mastermind groups. And really, the mastermind principle was popularized by Napoleon Hill in the book Think and Grow Rich.
Yes.
Henry Ford was part of Mastermind Group. Rockefeller, Edison, Einstein, the guy who did the polio vaccine. Like these are all people that are part of mastermind groups, right? The people who share similar values. The beliefs can be different, you know. So you can do industry specific ones. You can do leadership ones. I would, in my experience, the best ones that I've been a part of is that they have that accountability element, right? You got to state what you're going to do, and then you got to report back on whether you did it or not. And I think too, with coaches is important too. Is like, do they have a system, right? Do they have a process, and are they willing to get in your grill? Like, I don't pay you to be nice to me. Call me on my BS, and I don't like it. I might, like my wife. We were on a. I had an executive coach, and we would get into it sometimes. There was no joke about it. She's like, "You pay him?" But I go, "Yeah, I do," because he was calling me on my BS, right? And I think we need those people in our lives to do it, because some people are just afraid to do it because they don't want to hurt you or offend
Mhm.
you. But clear is kind.
And if people care about you, they'll ask you those questions.
Mhm. Yeah. And we may not like to hear them because they
Right.
sometimes suck. You know, it's like the saying, "Oh, I'll start doing this when this happens." Oh, I'll be there. I'll be a better attitude when I'm in this place. Why are you holding your happiness hostage based on an event? In order for someone to become something, someone had to do something. If you want to be that next person, and these things I've had to realize myself over the years, in order to be that next level, you got to be at that level now. So once you get in the shoes, you can feel the shoes.
Prepare today.
And that's where it comes down to the next parts, like regaining focus. You got to prioritize and plan. Like, is this going to be important to me or not? Like one of my comments when talking to our team when we were doing our quarterly reviews, it's like, I got a whiteboard here. Do you want me to put that goal on the whiteboard so that I look at it every day? Because the best way for me to serve you is to help you get that goal. And some people go, well, maybe not. That's okay, right? Don't tell me a goal because you think I want to hear it. Tell me a goal because it's something that you want to achieve. What's the end
Mhm.
result you want to get out of by going after that goal?
Yes.
Because I'll keep it in front of me. I think that's one of the reasons why we got such a winning team is that we hold each other accountable. People know each other's goals. And by knowing people's goals, people will help you, like you said. And it allows you to be a better servant leader, I believe, too.
Knowing your goals.
Mhm,
Your goals.
mhm,
That's what my weekly newsletter was this week.
mhm.
Are your goals your goals? Are they a
Yeah.
goal someone gave you?
Mhm.
And it sounds like you're identifying their goals. You're not telling them, hey, this should be your goal. No, no. What's the outcome that you want and why do you want it?
Well, and the thing is, too, I'm going to be honest with you, like sometimes some people share a goal with me. I'm like, okay, why are you playing it safe? I'll be honest, like, because I see something in them that may not see themselves, or they're just afraid. And I've been afraid of sharing my goals at times. And I'll justify why I'm not doing it. But we get one life to live, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, happy risk is attached to happiness. You got to put yourself out there in order to get that next level of happiness. You know, guilt and shame that keeps you safe.
Guilt and
Ha-
shame.
keeps you safe. It makes you draw back. It makes you hide. Put yourself out there to go after something. You know, and I get it. You know, you want to make calculated risks. You know, you don't want to be haphazard with it. Sometimes you gotta say, "What the hell? I'm going for it.
Hmm.
What's the worst thing gonna happen? Someone gonna die or go to jail?"
Right. Man, this is really good, Tony. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom. This is really, really valuable. Anyone listening to this, I know, go back to this episode, grab a pen, grab a paper, because there's gold that's coming from this episode. Tony, what is the best way for people to connect with you online?
Smoke signals. Just kidding.
Smoke signal.
Passenger pigeons. No. LinkedIn. You can literally find my name on there. It's Tony Jalan on LinkedIn. DM me. Connect with me. You know, there's so much opportunity today, more than ever before, I believe. And sometimes we just got to remove our barriers and obstacles, and we may not know what they are. And if we can connect, we can collaborate. It can make a difference.
Awesome. Well, make sure you reach out to Tony, connect with him on LinkedIn. He's always posting great information, not just the motivational quote. He's going to make you think, because that's where transformation happens, when you're using this, when you're
True
using your
story.
brain. So he uses his every day and he wants you to use yours. But if you're looking for more help in mindset, regaining focus, scheduling your priorities, reach out to Tony. He's helping a ton of people. Thanks so much for being on the show today, Tony.
Nicholas, it's an absolute pleasure to be on your show. And man, I'm just excited for you, man. I've seen you evolve and grow so much over the 7 years. It's exciting to see it. So keep on doing what you're doing. You're making a difference.
Thank you, Tony. Have a great day.
You got it.